It's been a West Knits mania.
Oh, don't you dare look back, just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said, shut up and dance with me. This woman is my destiny. She said, ooh, shut up and dance with me. We were victims of the night.
Hello, and welcome to episode 41 of KnitScents. My name is Jan, and you can find me as Jan Ellen RN on Ravelry and on Instagram. I do have a Snapchat, but I don't use it very often. But I did my very first Instagram Live yesterday. It did take 2 tries to figure out that there's a difference between putting up your story and doing something live. But I got that all figured out, so that was a lot of fun. Yesterday, this has been a really busy week, and yesterday, my friend and I went to Ewe Knit in Westfield, New Jersey, and had the opportunity to take a class with Stephen West, so I will talk all about that later. But we had a great time, and I did get some footage on my camera. So I will stick that on the end, and I will talk about that later. But other than that, I did get some knitting progress done. And it was been a busy week, but it's been relatively calm up until today. Actually, I did figure out, and I muted my the things that kept dinging on the computer that was driving me, and I'm sure everybody else crazy. I did figure out, and I silenced that, but I actually do have my phone on because I hopefully very shortly will be a great aunt. So I do have my phone on. So if I get that phone call anytime soon while I'm recording, I will have to stop and take that. But from the sound of things, I should be able to squeeze this episode in and then get that news later. So let's see what's new. I'm trying to think what was new. I think I'm still recovering from Vogue Knitting Live. That was a lot to take in and a lot to absorb, but it was just so much fun. There's like something on my screen, and it looks like it's on my shoulder, and I'm like, but nothing's happening here. Now it's even worse. All right, I'm gonna leave it alone because I can almost guarantee we're gonna have interruptions here because everybody's home. So this should be interesting. So I probably should just get to it and not blather on and try to keep this to a minimum. So let's see. We have this episode. I have some works in progress. I have an almost finished object, which I actually fell asleep knitting last night. I picked it up. We didn't get home yesterday. It took us almost no time to get to the store yesterday, which was great because we actually went early. So it was kind of like at the end of rush hour, and in this area, getting off the island and getting through either going through Manhattan, which we didn't do, but going through Staten Island and Jersey and whatnot, it's a very congested area. So technically it's not a huge difference, or a huge distance to go, but it could take you hours, as evidenced by the 3-hour ride it took us to get home. So tramping through Manhattan, and we ended up in Lower Manhattan. It was smack in the middle of rush hour, so it was quite a ride home. But all in all, we had a great time. So we did that. I do have, but anyway, the point I was getting to, I told you my mind is wandering already. I was exhausted when I got home, but I was determined to get what I'm going to show you finished, and I actually ended up falling asleep before I could get those last few rows done. So I have an almost finished object. I do have a finished object. I do have something that I cast on, which I'm kind of excited about. And it's actually really a very fun, easy knit. And I wasn't going to cast it on, but when I saw it, I was like, no, I have to. So I have one new cast on item. And what is in that bag? I have no good idea. All right, well, we'll both be surprised. And my sock, which I did bring it down, we'll take a look at it together because I think I'm turning the heel, or I'm still doing the heel. Let's just dive in. So I have some knitting. Again, absolutely no spinning. I have to do something. I have to get myself somehow motivated to spin. And so I have knitting, I have a finished object, no spinning, and as if Vogue Knitting Live wasn't enough. Yeah, I know. It's embarrassing. So I'm going to leave that little stash enhancement to the end. So feel free to just cut me off if you can't watch any more of it, because I will admit we've gone into excessive. But I'm done now. so she says. So let's dive into our works in progress. I'm going to start with my sock because honestly, I don't remember where I left off, and I may not have made as much progress since last time as I thought I made. I'm trying to remember when I recorded before or after I had my hair done, because that's when I made the progress. But at any rate, I am back on my 2 circulars, because we all know my strange way of doing socks. And I think I am almost done with my Fish Lips Kiss heel. I'm literally finished the first half. I did what they call the boomerang row, and I'm now on the increase side for the second half. I'm building the second half of the heel. If you've done the Fish Lips Kiss heel, you'll understand that. But basically, that boomerang row kind of is like almost the equivalent of turning the heel and making the pocket. And I'm now increasing back up. So I'm almost done. I'm almost ready to rejoin in the front. And then I will go on with this sock that was the sock from, That Never Ends, which now that song's going to go through my head. Aren't you glad I mentioned that? Don't remember Lamb Chop? I love Lamb Chop. That's my Ravatar actually on Ravelry. But every time I think of that song that never ends, and I'm sorry if I just did it to you, but that song is going to now resound through my head for 2 days. And those of you that have kids that are my kids' age, you know exactly what song I'm talking about. But I'm not going to sing it for you because it's really going to go through your head. So that's my sock. I am knitting that on Desert Vista Dye Works, VN base, the sparkle base in the Bing Crosby and the Andrew Sisters colorway. Got that out this time. Okay. So the next work in progress, which I really have to say I haven't worked on because my goal was to finish my poncho, which if there is a God, I'm going to have it done tonight because I can't look at it anymore, and I will explain why. But I did bring down my God, it looks pathetic. I don't think it's any different from the last time I showed it. But this is my Comfort Fade Party. It is still here on the needles, and I am in the middle of the first fade. So it probably doesn't look any different than it did the last time I showed it. But I thought I would bring it down and show it anyway. That's, like I said, I'm in the middle of my first fade, and I hope I can remember where in the heck and how many rows I did, because these 2 colors are so close, I could never really see, unless I looked at the end here, one of the ends. Well, it looks like I just started fading. Oh no, down here. No, that's the beginning of the sweater. Oh boy, you can tell. You can tell I'm tired. I'm not focused. I'm a little more unwrapped and unhinged than usual, which is never a good thing. Yeah, it appears that I have just started fading for the first time. And you can see these 2 colors. I mean, there's a difference. Even on here, you can pretty much see. But it's slight. It's very slight. And with the variegated and the speckles and all, it's hard to tell. So, yeah, it's still here. As soon as I finish my poncho, I will pick this up, and this will be my second whip that I'll be working on, because I will show you the 2 now that I'm actively working on. Okay? All right. So I have 2 going. This is sort of in abeyance until one of the 2 is finished. So let me show you my poncho, which is really what got the love. this week. My tale of woe. Why do I always have a tale of woe? I know, isn't it awful? Really, I mean, we're so blessed to have, access to all these fabulous yarns and all of this, and we're so lucky. And I'm not going to call this a tale of woe. I'm going to call this a tale of learning experience. Whatever. Let's go with me on this one, okay? Because this is my Shaldon Poncho. Okay, this was one of my whips from the crypt. I started this about 2 years ago. It is a super simple pattern. Super simple. It's basically a stockinette on the top, which I did in Miss Babs, and I have no clue anymore what colorways I used. And I've been really, really horrible about putting stuff on Ravelry. I've been finishing stuff, knitting stuff, finishing it. I haven't put stuff on Ravelry, like, I don't even remember when. So I've been really bad with that. So I can't even look back to see where it was. And I think I got rid of this one was rewound maybe 4 or 5 times in the last week, and I'll explain why. Anyway, it's a plain stockinette pattern, and then at the bottom there are 3 lace panels. Now, when I say lace, I'm talking knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over. And for 2 sections, the other 2 sections are slip 1, knit 1, pass slip, stitch over, yarn over. I mean, this is not a complicated pattern. I must have ripped this green part 4 times in the past week. My count kept getting off. I don't know what I was doing. I couldn't even say I wasn't paying attention because I was like literally counting and on top of it, and somehow I just kept messing it all up. At one point, I thought I was going to have to rip back to here because I didn't think I'd be able to rip back to the lace part and still be able to pick up these stitches and not lose a stitch, and I was already out of whack. So, but I was able to. And at that point, it was funny because I was texting my friends, and I'm like, at that point, should I just rip it out and be done with this? I mean, I've ripped this 3 or 4 times already, and I'm kind of over this already. As badly as I want the poncho, there's only so many knit 2 together yarn overs you can do before you've had enough. So I did rip it back to here for the 4th and final time. I was able to pick up the stitches, and I was able to get on from there. So this is the lace section 1. This is lace section 2. I am on the last of, it's a 4-round repeat, and I think I'm on the last 2 rows of this final repeat of the lace. Now, assuming my count stays correct, I think there's another small little stockinette section and then a bind off, and then this is done. One way or another, it's getting done. I'm not ripping anymore. At this point, if it's messed up, I'm going to end it where it is and be done with it. So it should block out to a really nice size. It's not meant to be a long poncho like down to the hips or anything, but on me, this should block to a good size. This is out of Miss Babs, and it is the Yowza, but I have absolutely no idea what the colorways are. I'm sorry. If I find it or can figure it out, I'll link it below. But again, this is an almost FO. It would have been if I hadn't have done literally more negative knitting than positive knitting in the past week. So that has been living in my, God, now what? It's like this thing is doomed. It literally doomed. It just knit something that's doomed. I just like literally pulled stitches out with my necklace. I did turn those notifications off. I don't know why it's staying. I don't know. Now my nail got stuck on it. I can't deal with this. Okay, it's going to be another one of those episodes. And the yarn just fell on the floor. This is living in my Toad Hill. Where's the sticker? Did the dog eat the sticker off? You got to be kidding me. Come on, man. That's crazy. Oh, Toad Hollow. My Toad Hollow bags. This is from 2 years ago at Rhinebeck. Toad Hollow came out with what she called the unofficial Rhinebeck bag. So in other words, it wasn't from the festival. It had nothing to do with the festival, but it was made in anticipation of Rhinebeck. And the reason was because it came with a long strap, so you could carry it on your shoulder and knit while you were walking, and not have it have to have it on your wrist. You could have it on your shoulder and knit while you were walking. I had not seen it until I saw a bunch of people at Rhinebeck carrying this bag, and I was like, where did you get that? Is that, did you find that here? And they were like, no, we got it on this website. It's the unofficial whatever. And when I came home, or got back to my room, I didn't wait till I came home, she still had some available. So I did order it and I got it. And again, it's from Toad Hollow Bags. The last time I checked, she didn't have any of these left in the shop, but you could always check. So that's where that's living. Moving right along. Okay. I have another FO. I have two ones. No, actually, no, I'm sorry. I don't. I showed one last week. I did. I showed it last week. Okay. So my other work in progress, which is the one that I cast on this week, or since I recorded last, is Flosaic. I think is the name of it. I'm going to cheat and check, but I don't even know if I have that. I think it's called Flosaic. Can you tell that I'm completely unprepared? Like, totally, really unprepared? It's called Flosaic. And I know I showed the yarn in the kit when I got it. This is the first shipment from the N Club, which is the new year-long club from Laura Nelkin. She had the M Club, I believe, for 3 years. I think it went. I think it was 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And this year she changed things up a little bit and called it the N Club. And instead of 4 shipments, there will be 3. They are not mystery knit-alongs. They are just 3 exclusive patterns. She did do a Facebook Live reveal of the patterns, so we know what it is. And this one, actually, you had your choice of either making a scarf or a poncho. And I saw the poncho, and that was it. I had to cast it on. So I did, and it's actually, she does a great tutorial. It's called Flosaic because it incorporates this stitch, which is called the Flosaic stitch. Again, it's late. It's actually like, I don't know, like 7 o'clock, 6:30, something like that. So my lighting is not great. You all know I have lighting issues. Let's see if this helps at all. Okay. This is such a fun stitch. I've never done this before, but it's called the Flosaic. And essentially what this does and what it will do is, as we start to increase for the shoulders, it starts at the top down. So this is actually the neck, and the top of the poncho has a cowl on it. So this is actually what will be the cowl part. And then this is going to get wider, obviously increase for the shoulders and then increase for the body. And what happens is that this, if you look right in here on the sides of the Flosaic stitch, you can start to see there's a little ribbing. And right now I think it's just like 2 stitches of ribbing in there. I don't know if I can get it to really show. But what ends up happening is that this ribbing increases. So this stitch section is going to get wider and wider to a certain point, and then it will just flow down. It really was a beautiful poncho. And again, she gave the option because it is a smaller, narrower size poncho. It's not like your typical poncho that would come out and hang down, or that you could continue to increase, because we are limited by the skein of yarn. This is a gradient, as you can see, and then it actually, and it doesn't show up that well, but the entire end of it is a gradient. So it's not like you could just sort of add on some more. I mean, I guess you could to make it larger, but you kind of have to really do the math. And again, so she thought that this one-size-fits-all poncho might not appeal to everybody. So she did make it in a scarf version. But I thought that this poncho would probably work for me. If not, it'll work for somebody. I'll find somebody to work it for, because I just I thought this was just absolutely adorable. So that's what I cast on. That's the progress I made. Again, I was really more focused on that poncho, which I was this close to just ripping it out. And like I said, I did my frogging event. We all saw that one, and kept the pieces that I really wanted. So I really did want to finish this. But boy, oh boy, after ripping it out that fourth time, I came to just give it up. So once that poncho is done, I will pick up the pace on this, and my comfort cardigan is going to get the love. And if you didn't see it from last week, I have just been having a blast collecting these enamel pins. And I don't know if I had this one last time. I get these, I don't know if it's from the Sephora Play Box or some other box that comes here once every couple of months or whatever. Shoved them in the corner, and I'm going to end up going through them. And I ended up the other day, I decided I had to clean the mess, and I sat down with my daughter, we went through all of it, and what do I find in there? An enamel lipstick pen. I'm like, I would have left all the samples and stuff in there. This pen was worth the price of admission to me. So I think that's the only new one on this collection. I think that's it. Speaking of Sephora, if you are down that rabbit hole of the enamel pins, if you are a Sephora VIB member, either a Rouge member, VIB, any Beauty Insider member, if you collect points, right now they have available, and I don't think it's going to stick around for long, but they have available, I believe it's 250 points. It's a set of four enamel pins. There was this one. There was this one, which is a makeup compact, right there. There was this one, came in it with the hearts, and I saw this unicorn, and it was all over after that. So if you are into collecting enamel pins and you go to Sephora, you're an insider member, you collect their points, if you have at least 250 points, check your Sephora. I don't know if these are online, I didn't check. But they do have the set of 4 enamel pins available. So my collection is growing. Might have needed a new bag to start putting the pins on. Is that it? I think that's it for whips. Is that it? Let me check. I did everything, right? We did the socks, we did the stuff, so that's it. Okay. So that's it for whips. I have a finished object. I have a finished object. Now think, what was I working on really hard? What was getting all the love that's not here? Yes, I finished my Birds of a Feather. I loved it. I loved knitting this. I loved the finished product. I love the shawl so much so that I did get more mohair. I don't know if I'm going to knit another one right now because, like I said, I had just finished the Find Your Fade when I cast this one on, and this is a very, very similar style pattern. So I don't know if I'm going to commit to this right now, but I do love this shawl. Again, I'm going to stand up. I have not blocked it yet again because I have no room or place to block it. But I think when you stand back, you can see the solid sections, more of the variation between the solid and the mohair. And again, this is single strand lace weight mohair knit with single strand skinny singles or fingering weight yarns, really, because you don't need to use, just fingering, and then this is the lace weight. This is the size before blocking. And there are some lace sections here. So I will likely put pins in these lace sections because I don't want to block this garter to the point where it's wide open. So what I will probably do when I block it is lay it flat and then just stretch out with pins these few lace sections, the Feather and Fan or Old Shale, pattern here and just pin these open so that that opens up nicely. But as you can see already, without any blocking or any enlarging or whatnot, this is a long shawl, very large. So, but I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So that is finally finished. It is off my needles. I would highly recommend this pattern. I know there are mohairs out there that are very itchy, scratchy. Some people don't like working with mohair, that it can be sticky. The only thing I can say is this. This is knit out of hedgehog fibers, skinny singles in the Zephyr colorway, and the Kid Silk mohair in the Zephyr colorway. I had no trouble. This mohair was a pleasure to knit with. It is not, I'm like trying to find if it's scratchy somewhere. I'm like actively, could it possibly get, it is not itchy. It was mohair, it was typical mohair. Was I able to rip back where I needed to? Absolutely. It was a pleasure to work with. Would I work with it again? I bought a few more skeins of it, as I showed last week in my haul video from Vogue Knitting Live. So yeah, I will absolutely knit with it again. I was obsessed with mohair. I would actually knit with this, held with a strand of fingering weight. So yeah, so that is my finished object. There we go. And so that brings me to the West Knits Best Knits, okay, from yesterday. Actually, Stephen was at Do You Knit, let's see, yesterday was Wednesday, so he was there for one class on Tuesday that was on color. That was on color combinations, how to combine color. And then yesterday's class was more about designing and design elements, how he puts things together, how you would shape a shawl, how he approaches his designs, which is really very organically. It's kind of like how I would I can't sit down and sketch out a shawl. As much as I would love to design my own pattern, I can't apply the math and figure out, and and I know you have to do a certain amount of understanding the construction, and obviously where your increases and your decreases would need to be. Otherwise, you'd end up with this funky shape, who knows what. But his designs, he keeps a few principles in mind that he works with regarding where he would put his increases and decreases, and then just sort of starts organically and then lets his creativity take over. And I just thought that was such a freeing approach, and if you do that, if you start with a particular type of cast on, let's say you're doing a shawl or you're doing a cowl, and you start with a particular cast on, and you understand your increases and you understand how, your gauge, just from the standpoint of how big you want it if you're doing a cowl, or if you don't want to be bothered with gauge, do a shawl. Do a shawl and knit it until you get it the size you want it, or keep on going and turn it into a shrug, that's how he got to one of his patterns, and I think it was the Excuse Me shrug or poncho that started out as a shawl, and then he kept on going. So it really was kind of a very liberating class to know that, what's the worst that'll happen? I'll sit down with some scraps or some, enough leftover pieces that if I like what I'm doing, I can keep on going. And maybe an idea in mind of what I'd like to include. And then just sort of let it go. Let it go. And like Stephen said, if it's not looking right or your off count is off or whatever, throw in an eyelet row and keep on going. And, you know, even if it's something that you never publish or you don't go into pattern designing or pattern making, but you've made your own, you know, and you can't figure out, you know, so you made a mistake. His thing is don't rip it. Don't rip it. Don't rip. Go, move on. Put in an eyelet row, knit two together, and move on. Do another stitch pattern. Try seed stitch. Add some texture. Do some stockinette. Combine two different kinds of yarn. Marl, you know, use a marling technique. Use a fading technique. Use a striping technique. All of these things, and it was very, very liberating. I did take a lot of notes. Basically, it was just not so much from what he was saying. It was the inspiration that I was getting just from listening to him and seeing his samples and seeing what he was showing and how beautiful these things were and how he was explaining how they came about, how his inspiration just sort of comes organically. As opposed to, and I've seen beautiful designs we all have on Ravelry where somebody is inspired by, I mean, I have a pattern where someone was inspired by, I believe it was, actually I don't know if she actually designed it. I think she dyed the yarn for it. It was Susan of Desert Vista Dye Works, and this is years back. There's a pattern, and it was a kit that was inspired by the architecture at the Scarlett Bennett Center where a Super Summer Knit Together, which is the retreat done by the Knit Girls, fabulous. But the architecture there and the stained glass windows of these buildings is magnificent. And this designer was inspired by that, and Susan was inspired by the stained glass colors, and together they put together this kit. Now, I have the kit. I haven't knit it yet, but it's stranded color work that just literally becomes this cowl of these stained glass windows that look like the Scarlett Bennett Center. That you have to plan out. That you have to figure out and design on paper, on graph paper, figure out the stitches. That's not, I think that's where Stephen may have started, because some of his earlier designs, I have done some in Tarja. I believe it was Earth and Sky was the pattern that I did. That was blocks of color, and then you had the option on the edging. There was an Intarsia option and something else. Now, he's actually, although his designs look more complicated, he's actually simplified his process, which is what, you know, I asked him, you know, they look so complicated, but you're explaining them so simply. And it's basically because he's cut down to a certain number of rules. I-cord, bind off he's using a lot, garter stitch tab, cast on he's using a lot. He has a formula that he uses for increasing. And that's how he's been designing, is basically starting with the same thing and organically going from there and just taking it in the direction that he wants to go. So I just found that whole thing really, really fascinating. Again, this was at Do You Knit, and I know I've spoken about this yarn store before, but to be in that yarn store with all of those unbelievable yarns from all of these indie dyers with these just walls of gorgeous color, to be in there with Stephen was like, kind of like knitting Nirvana. That's what it was. It was knitting Nirvana. And it was inspiring. It was fun. The other people in the class were really inspiring with what they were doing, because basically we were just told, bring in yarns, whatever you want to work with, and you're going to cast on and take it. You're going to go with it. You're going to go with it. And what Stephen said, and what we all found amazing, was that we weren't given a pattern. We weren't given, you know, we just basically were told how to start, and everybody went off in a different direction. Everybody was doing their own thing. I actually added brioche into mine. Stupidly, I don't know why I didn't, bring my little sample down. But people were off doing different techniques and different things and adding in, and it was so inspiring and so fabulous to see that. And what Karen, the owner of the shop, did, which I thought was really, really an amazing thing, she closed the store to the public for 2 days. And her thinking was, you know, these people paid for class in their time with Stephen, and it really inspired kind of that group, and he was there and in the moment with, you know, the 10 students that were in the class. And that, you know, not many yarn stores will do that. They'll either have the class at night after the store is closed. But this was really something. And not only that, she had coffee and donuts and muffins for laid out when we got there for, you know, for breakfast, because I think class started at 11. And she had lunch ordered in. I mean, that was totally unexpected, really just so nice, and so appreciated, really, really appreciated that she really wanted the people who took the class in her shop to really enjoy the experience. And I can only say for myself that I did. I thought that that was above and beyond. The whole thing was just a great experience. And, you know, even if you walked away and said, look, it's not an immediate design, but I might feel a little more free now to say, you know what, this whole pattern is fingering, but I'm not going to do it in fingering. I'm going to throw in a little DK weight for a little texture. Or I'm going to throw in a little couple of stripes in mohair because I love mohair. If you walked away with that, with even the slightest inspiration to change something, because like Stephen said, a pattern should always be changed. And the only one in the class, he asked, does anybody follow a pattern rigidly? One person in the class raised their hand. Could we guess who that was? Because I don't deviate. When I go rogue, and I told him, when I go rogue, I go rogue. I mean, I go rogue, okay? Like, I go rogue and there's no coming back. And I did explain to him about which I was so embarrassed about, my poor magic marled magic. And I explained that it got to the point. And he said, oh, it went over the top, huh? And I'm like, no, it went over the top and it went down the cliff, rolled away. The wheels were off the wagon. The thing went too far. So when I said that, and I said, you know, I have a hard time putting colors together. And it's not that I don't like colorful things. I do. Obviously, I am in gray. I mean, that's my norm. But I have gone outside my box. I mean, you can see by my Find Your Fade and my Birds of a Feather. I mean, there are spots of yellow and whatnot in there, and the colors that I bought at Vogue Knitting. So after I explained my marled magic problem, and this is going to take us into stash enhancement, Stephen said, well, you can take a step back. Now, when Stephen West pulls out yarn and picks colors for you, you don't ask questions, especially when you love them. You get them. So he turned around and he did this for everybody. He helped them pick colors. He helped them pick yarns. He helped them even make decisions with yarns that they had brought in, because we were told to bring in yarns that you want to knit with. And people were like, well, what would if I wanted to add this color, or if I wanted to add a texture, what would you suggest? And he was helping individually. He made sure that every single person in there got attention, got one-on-one attention with whatever it was that they wanted. I mean, he was looking at your sample and stuff, but if you wanted help with your colors, or you wanted to know what pattern should I do next, like I had questions with how would I do increases with brioche, and he came and he answered those questions. So what I ended up with was, and Stephen picked these, and I fell in love. And again, I think he picked them for me to retry the marled magic. But I don't know that I got enough of each color after there's 5 skeins. So I'd have to take a look again at the pattern. And I don't know if I would use these for that or use these for something else. But here are the 5 colors that he picked. And I just flipped because these were just so in my wheelhouse, but not totally in my wheelhouse. So let's see what we have. There is this beautiful, these are, I believe they're all skein, actually no, this is Skein Queen, and this is Skein Queen. And this one is Twisted Finch. So these are all different dyers. Okay, 2 of them are Skein Queen, 1 is Twisted Finch, and 2 are Tuscan Knits. Okay, so the Skein Queen is Hermitage, which I am assuming is her just a fingering. This is not, yeah, 4-ply fingering. This is not a singles. Okay, but this looks like it's a pretty fairly light fingering. And this is in the Crush colorway. Okay, so it's really like a golden brown. I know because of my lights, I don't have any matches. It's dark outside. So that was one color. And then we had this color, which had some of the gold in it and some purples and like blue. And this is Tuscan Knits. And again, this may be a singles. This looks like this may be a singles. Yeah, fingering weight singles. It's the fur base in the Mushroom Patch colorway. I'm sorry, I just keep looking to see if I'm getting texted. We're all like on pins and needles waiting for news. So I'm sorry, I thought I did turn the notifications off. I don't know why they're still popping up, but I'm like literally sitting here waiting for that phone call. This is the Mushroom Patch colorway. So we got that one, and I did take a picture of how he laid them out. Stupid I wasn't this time. I was on the ball because I never would have figured out how he did it. The next one, I think, played off of the steel blue gray in here, and this is a blue with pops of an orangey red. This is really a red orange in there, but there is still some orange. There is actually some pops of green in here, which I would never have seen. Okay, I wouldn't have picked that out. And that's kind of my problem. I mean, I would pick up the skein and say, oh, this is blue yarn. And that's my problem. And between Andrea Mowry's class and yesterday with Stephen, I've learned, first of all, unskein the yarn. You can't tell the colors unless it's a solid color. If something is variegated or speckled, if you are looking to match up colors, unskein the yarn and hold the skeins open next to each other, because that's how you're going to see all of the colors. Because to me, I would pick this up and go, oh, that's blue yarn. I wouldn't be looking. Now I know to open it up and really look at what colors are inside so that I can match them better and not necessarily put green, purple, orange, and whatever all one next to the other without something to pull them together. I learned that lesson the hard way, but I did. So this is Skein Queen. This again is the 4-ply fingering. This is the, I think one says Dream Cloud and one says Crush. I'm assuming Dream Cloud is the name and Hermitage is the name. I thought that was the base. But this one actually, the name is Hermitage, is the colorway. And this is Dream Cloud, and they're both on the Crush base, which is the 4-ply fingering. And then to play off of the oranges and the orangey reds, he pulled this one, which is Tuscan Knits, and it is, again, the singles in the fur base in the Cordelia colorway. And this has, oh, so I'm not even in there. Again, I would pick it up and go, orange, nope, not doing it. But this is an orangey salmon color with pops of black in there. And if you look, if you take this off, there are pops of green. I'm trying to see if I can dig one out, but there are pops of green. And then that brings us to the last one, which kind of almost ties all these colors together. It's got the orange, it's got some pops of bright green, it's got darker green, it's got some blue in there, and this is the Twisted Finch. This is the other brand, and it also has in there the browns and the orange and the golds, which is from the other end. So when you put these together like that and start at each end, they tie together, even though you've gone from gold to green in here, because most of the pops are green, but you've tied this together and managed to fade cohesively. That's, I think, the best way to say it, is a cohesive fade. And that's where I was going wrong. And that's what Andrea was explaining, and that's exactly what Stephen was explaining, is you can use all of the colors. You can use every color, but you have to do it in a cohesive way. If you want a rainbow, then yes, you would stripe the rainbow colors. But if you're marling, if you're fading, you want to do that with some sort of end game in mind. In other words, you know, random is good. You could go with random, but if you start with a palette that's either cool toned or warm toned, or you go from cool to warm, but you do it in a cohesive way. You do it in a way that the colors meld, that your eye isn't just saying, oh wow, that doesn't match. But your eye is blending it together because you've done it cohesively. You've done it in a way that is blending, that blends the colors or blends the different shades. You can start at one end with an orange and you can end at the other end with a pink. And if you blend them together in a way that takes it where the eye does not see the starkness, unless that's what you're going for, which is fine too. But my problem is I was trying to get these colors together, and the colors would have worked fine had I worked them in a different manner. And I actually brought some of the skeins, and he did show me what would have made the colors work a little bit better. So that was the takeaway. These are the 5 skeins that I will use together for something. I don't know. I don't know if it will be another Marled Magic or another Stephen West pattern, which I'm going to show in a minute, a bunch of those. But these are the 5 skeins that Stephen put together, and they will stay together. They will live happy together, and that's the story. And they're going to be on the floor now. Of all things, after that, first of all, I ended up, and I said the next time I walk in that shop, they have a hat there, oh God, over the top. I think the pattern is over the top. I'll link it below. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, but it's knit with, I think, an Aran weight and a mohair, which I love, and there's a pom-pom on top. Now, I don't, she has the most gorgeous fur pom-poms, but I don't use the fur, so I have to go where I found the acrylic pom-pom, which is fine. I mean, it snaps on and off. I don't care. I'm not going to worry about it. Worst comes to worst, I'll make my own pom-pom. But I said I'm not leaving that store again until I get the yarn to make this hat. So it took 1 skein of Aran and 1 skein. Actually, you can make 2 hats with the 1 skein of the mohair, and it takes 1 skein of the Aran. Stupid me, I should have actually gotten another skein of the Aran weight while I was in it, but that's no big deal. So, you know, I saw this purple. I saw this actually first, and I was like, I have to have that color. All right, so we need something that goes with that color. And I saw this purple, and I'm like, that's kind of bright for me. Even, it's a hat. It's no big deal. I mean, it's not going to be terrible, but it's kind of bright. It's actually got pink in there. I don't know if that's showing up. But it's a pinky purple, and there's pink in there. It's pink and it's purple, and I'm like, that's kind of bright for me to be, you know, my comfort zone. But I'm going out of my wheelhouse. But then I realized you put this together and you hold this with it. This is going to, I don't want to say diminish, but this is going to tone down. This is going to tone down this shade. It will not be as bright when held with this. And I think that's going to make the perfect shade for me, and I will love it. So I got this to make the over the top, I think is the hat. Again, I will link it below. And as if that wasn't enough, okay, right? I needed more yarn, and let's be honest, it was crazy. It was insane because after Vogue Knitting Live, I don't know a place to put this stuff. It's starting to take over. Okay, I'm working through my whips, and I am going through my stash. I'm knitting from, we're going to do that. But of all things, my hedgehog fiber club came yesterday too. I came home and I'm like, oh my God, does it get any worse? So my two skeins, my skinny singles, came from Hedgehog Fibers, and one is the Miranda colorway and one is Lily Pad. Now, again, these are both completely out of my wheelhouse. One, and they're beautiful colors. One is this beautiful green, and in here, now I'm looking, there are pinks, there are golds, there's red, there's blue, there's almost like that whitish, the undyed. So will I use this? Absolutely. I will likely get a skein that has more. Oh, I've got to put this on hold because that may be the phone call. Hold on. Still waiting. Lord, I mean, I'm home waiting, and I'm like, my blood pressure's starting to get up there, and I'm getting anxious. This is my great niece. Well, it's my niece. He's going to be my great niece. I can't even imagine what my sister's going through. But at any rate, I digress. That's this. So what I was saying was I would find a speckled skein or a solid skein that just had a little bit of speckles in it in the colors that popped in here. So I'm getting to learn now how to use these skeins that normally I would totally shy away from. And this, I'm looking at it, it's a beautiful skein. It's an absolutely beautiful skein. But I would, a year ago, look at this and go, no way. I don't know what to do with this color. I do. And this one, again, completely out of my wheelhouse, except that now I think this would be absolutely gorgeous, marled with something. You know, we're thinking differently now. And again, this is Miranda, and they're both the skinny singles. I had to take my dog again out for treatment today, and that's out east, so it's a bit of a ride. My mom goes with me. And she just, you know, back in the day, you know, knitting was what your grandmother did. And you learn from your grandmother, and you knit a sweater or a couple of baby things, and that was it, and that's all that was knitting. And I was trying to, you know, I was explaining to her that it's so different now. And she's like, how can it be different? Knitting is knitting. And I'm like, because the designers now, they're young. They're young people that are hip, and they're dressed, they're modern, they're bringing youth to this, and so are their designs, and so are their color sense. And it's not the granny shawl that, you know, your grandma wore, although, you know, I mean, I have one of those. I have a few of those that I knit. When I'm cold, I throw it on. That's not where they're going. And so many younger people are knitting now because they want these garments. They want the swan shows. These things are cool. Stephen's knitted dresses were amazing. I mean, and I can't pull that off, but my daughter could. So I think there's just been a huge transition, and I'm knitting now for over 40 years, okay? I'm knitting a long time, and years ago, you went into your yarn store, and whatever pattern books they had, you bought, or you bought the yarn and they gave you some pattern or whatever not to use with it. And that was it. That was what your choices were, leisure art books, and that was it. Or occasionally, you know, later on towards the 70s, late 70s and the 80s, you know, there would be designers that would come out and you would go and try to get the yarn and you couldn't, and the yarn stores would match you up with the yarn that really didn't work with the pattern. It is so not like that today. And I was trying to explain that to my mother, but you won't know that, so I need to go down that road. Okay, what else do we get? I had been eyeing this since the last time I was in the store. Let's just discuss, okay? It's Twill and Print. This bag is amazing, and that's all I'm going to say. It's a Twill and Print bag. It opens up huge, okay, but it has snaps on it, and that's why I said, you know, with my enamel pin collection, I really need a new place to put it. And then this actually, which I thought was just great, folds down like a box top to snap closed, which I can't really do, and this is starting to run like really long yet again. I talk too much. But the upshot is, this folds flat, so you could actually knit out the side and keep this closed. It's got leather handles, it has this little leather piece, it's got pockets on the outside. This is almost a suede type fabric. It's got one big pocket on the outside. I think it's got pockets on the inside, and it does. It's got pockets, and the pockets on the inside actually have grommets. If you wanted to use that and put the yarn through. I never had any luck doing that, but hey, maybe one day I'll learn how, and who knows. So I'm not even going to talk about it because I need that like a hole in the head. Stitch markers. When have I ever not? Waffles. Waffles? I had to have the waffles. These are Seasons markers. I don't know anything about that vendor. I've not seen them anywhere. All I saw was waffles, and it made me want to come home and find a vegan recipe for waffles. So I'm like, if I can't eat them, at least I can knit with them. So I got a set of stitch markers. And then when I had ordered, actually it was the last time I was at Ewe Knit. I got several enamel pins. The session had already started, and I got several enamel pins by Twill and Company, who also happens to make the bag. It's Twill and Print. And there was one pin that I didn't get, and I was sorry I didn't get it. And I saw it at Vogue Knitting Live, and I said, you know, I'm going to, or did I see it? No, I went and I saw it on something. And I asked them if they had the vendor, if they had it, and they were already sold out of it. They had one left at Ewe Knit. I had to bring it home. It's, to me, this is like me, the crazy yarn lady. The yarn balls and the hooks and the needles all coming out of her head. Yeah, I had to. So I got that. And that is it, except for, and I'm actually, you know, I was going to do the review today, but I think this episode is already running kind of long, so I will probably save this for the next episode. But Stephen actually came out with a second book. This is his first book, which is the one that I got, West Knits Best Knits, and this is number 1, which is shawls. The second one is more sweaters and garments, and for me, I just thought the weight would just be too heavy for me and too much for me, and I didn't have this book. And after seeing these in person, this one I believe is Exploration Station, I know I want to knit them. There's at least 3 in this book that I want to knit. And Stephen did autograph everybody who got a book. He did autograph them. So, I mean, that was awesome in itself. But I'm sure you have seen many of these already online. I think the pattern for the doodler is in here, which is another one that I wanted to do. This is the brioche chevron wrap. I would love to make that one. This one is Holy Chevrons, which he also had the sample there. And again, the colors he picked were beautiful. But oh, this was another one. This one I went bananas over. And it's actually called Garter Breeze. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So I will go through all of these and review the book. Like I said, the Doodler is in here. Dotted Rays is in here. Exploration Station is in here. If you love Stephen's patterns, I cannot recommend that book highly enough. Again, I will go more into the exact patterns probably in the next episode, because hopefully I will finish that second poncho and I will likely cast on for one of the patterns in that book. I actually was thinking, and I thought it might be fun, I'm not sure if I have the guts to do this, but I was actually thinking and kind of wondering how long would it take me to knit my way through that book, to knit every single shawl in that book. I think there are 13 patterns in there. I'm not sure. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, 13 patterns in there. I'm debating whether I should challenge myself to knitting each of those patterns in that book. It kind of reminds me of that movie, Julie and Julia, or Julia and Julie, or something, whatever that was, where she, a blogger, she started a blog and decided she was going to cook her way through mastering the art of French cooking. Now I know better than to even attempt to do something stupid like that, because I can barely handle hamburgers. There's no way I'm going down the French cooking aisle. But one book of 13 shawls, you know, if I gave myself a reasonable amount of time, I think I might be able to do that. So that's in the back of my mind. But while we're on the subject of that, I did open a thread, and I had spoken about doing a knit along, a New Year's knit along. Some of us are doing the Comfort Fade cardigan. I know somebody had already posted in the finished object thread, which I did open a finished object thread, a beautiful hat that she knit since the first. So I would really love it if you've cast on anything. It does not have to be the Comfort Fade cardigan. It doesn't have to be a cardigan. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. Anything that you've started since the first. Join us in the knit along thread. Tell us what you're knitting. Tell us what you're knitting it with. Let's get some conversation going. Let's keep each other going along. Whatever you finished since you've started January 1st, post a picture of it in the finished object thread. Okay, the finished object thread. And you know, I said we'll leave it open till the end of February, and now I'm thinking maybe if, you know, some of us are doing cardigans, I know some people are still waiting on yarn. If you finish more than one thing, enter more than one thing. And I will find something, you know, depending on how many entries, if we can get, you know, enough entries going. I've had trouble with that before, so please participate if you've done anything. You don't just, all you have to do is be a member of the group and have knit something that you started after the first and finished it. Post a picture in there and you'll be eligible, and I will find some really nice prize to use a random number generator and gift to the winner from that thread. So we really need some participation. So what I'm thinking of doing is leaving it open actually for the first quarter until the end of March. So that will give plenty of time if you're working on a cardigan. That will give plenty of time if you want to enter more than once. Whatever you cast on after the 1st of January and finish before I close the thread, which right now I'm thinking the end of March, will be eligible for an entry. So join us. Come on over there. Whatever it is you're knitting on, whatever it is you're knitting with, it doesn't matter. The only thing is that you cast it on after January 1st and you get a picture of the finished object, or you finish it and take a picture, post it in the finished object thread, and you're a member of the group. That's the rules. That's it. And nothing too technical. So I think that is it. I think that's all I have. Somehow I intended to get this a short episode, and I just don't think I can stop talking long enough. I really don't. So let's see. It's Thursday. I will, at the end of this, which is only going to make this episode longer, but I do have some footage that I took at the store yesterday that I shot with my camera, so I will put that at the end of this video. So if you want to see that, and you know, just hang in there till the end, and hopefully we will have that. And other than that, I hope you all have a good weekend, and I look forward to seeing everyone next week, and hopefully by then I will have a brand new grand niece to brag about. So have a wonderful weekend, have a great week, and remember to knit with sense.
Okay, so say hi, Terry. Where are we?
Ruby.
Say hi to Ruby. Hi, Ruby. We are at Do You Knit, and we are here for a class with Stephen West, who is right here. And we are really, really excited. And I've already purchased yarn, which Stephen picked out for me to try that Marled Magic again. Yep, that one that, you know, the hot mess that I made. Well, we're going to try it again. And I purchased, where did it go? Let's just go down here. You can see, I don't know if you can see in my bag, the yarn that I already got. I will show it on my next podcast, but I did get Stephen's new book. Well, actually, no, his first book. And I have an idea of what we're going to do. Yep. Yep, I'm always talking. No, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, what, coffee?
No,
Coffee?
yeah, that too.
Coffee?
But I know you wanted to.
So, there we go. So,
How much does she weigh?
this is, I just wanted to give you an idea of the copious amounts of magnificent yarn here at Do You Knit. Absolutely amazing. And that is the Walls of Hedgehog. I'm going to see if I can zoom in.
Good, how are you?
Show you.
Yeah, we want to take a picture with you.
Absolutely gorgeous. So we are in Yarny Heaven here, meeting Stephen West, taking a class with him, being in here with all this yarny amazing goodness, and shopping and taking class. So I will get back to you soon.
Very excited.
And hopefully take some pictures and show you what we're up to.
3 interchangeable.
Say hi to Miss Ruby.
Hi, Miss Ruby. Hi, are you
Yes, Miss
hungry?
Ruby. Is she not sweet? She's such a sweetie. Here is just a huge sample of some of Stephen's absolutely magnificent shawls, which is just inspiring to look at him.
Back to the knitting.
Just gorgeous.
On Friday,
Oh my goodness.
Stephen make her hack.
Beautiful. I think this is Speckle and Pop, I think is this one. So we're all still here. We're just kind of taking a break to eat. And we're starting on little shawls that we're kind of designing ourselves. So I decided, of course, I couldn't be simple. I had to jump off the trolley and go, let's see if I can get this to focus. It's going to focus. We all know I have focusing issues. I was going to try adding in brioche. So we'll have to see if that actually ends up looking like brioche at some point. But I decided to go off the trolley and try that. So everyone's in different states of confusion. Only us, Terry. Everybody else seems to know what they're doing.
I'm not confused. I totally know. I don't know what I'm doing.
There you go. I don't know why this camera doesn't focus. Okay, there we go. Now we're back. There we go. So you can see everybody's just sort of enjoying and having fun, and Stephen is helping everyone pick out some amazing colors, just absolutely amazing colors from the wall. He really is a color genius. So we're having lots and lots of fun and really enjoying the class and learning all different techniques of shaping shawls and how to make shawls and not make mistakes, because they're never mistakes, they're design elements. Say hi, Terry.
Hi, Terry. Hi, everybody.
So we're going to knit on, like Elizabeth Zimmerman says, with confidence through all crises. So we're all done with class, and we learned all of Stephen's secrets for how he shapes his shawls and how he designs and his thought process, and it was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Stephen is just a sweetheart. He's an absolute doll, very, very sharing and very, very freeing. He really helped us all out and really made us push our boundaries, which is a really, really great thing. So if you ever have the opportunity to take a class, definitely would highly recommend it. And if you ever have the chance to come out to do Ewe Knit, you got to make the trip because the shop is amazing. The yarn is absolutely gorgeous. Karen and her helpers will help you put together fades and marls and whatever it is that you're looking for. So it's been great. We had a fabulous time, and hopefully I will get all of this footage up on my next podcast, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.